right? Hi out there in internet land. And hopefully you guys can all hear me and all my ducks are in a row. I see I got a lot going on here. Let me just get that situated. So I've even been able to add music to my stream today. Let me just check the audio levels and hope that I'm good. I've had a lot of technical difficulties here behind the scenes. So I'm still on OBS. My husband will be surprised because I almost gave up on OBS. Shout out to the open broadcast software that is OBS. You are fabulous. Thank you, OBS. It definitely can be challenging when you have tech problems. Anyway, so exciting today. RFK Jr. has been officially confirmed to HHS, and that is absolutely wonderful news for many different reasons. One being our children and the fact that this conversation about vaccines is now, it's part of the mainstream. And I think that's really fabulous. And I hope some great things can come of that. Now, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but me being who I am, I have to look at all sides of all things. And I want to point out why it is really, really important now more than ever that MAHA stays very diligent in our efforts to make America healthy and really look critically at who Trump has surrounded himself with and the fact that Trump is also a businessman. At the end of the day, Trump is a businessman. So we always have to remember that. So what I find really interesting is when Trump was first inaugurated, on the front row seat above the cabinet members was what people were calling billionaire row. And I think as a people, we really need to pay very close attention to billionaire row because his first day in office, Trump's first day in office, remember that press release that he had with Larry Ellison where they talked about mRNA and AI. And this is where I'm going to take you guys over to here. Hopefully everything is, I'm so excited I got OBS working again. But I want to take you to my notes over here. And let's see if I could get you guys here with me and my notes. Yay, there we are. We got me and my notes here. So for every show, I always put together a host of notes that I was able to copy and post into both Twitter and Facebook. I'm currently streaming on Rumble looking good, YouTube looking good, Instagram looking good. So I'm streaming on Facebook, X. I like to say Twitter. Somebody recently was talking about anything with an X you should be wary of. Anyway, so I am broadcasting on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and everything is looking good on my end. I'm going to be pulling up a chat thing in here so I can communicate with you guys. Right now I don't have a chat box up, but that's something I hope to have in the very near future. So let me get back to my show notes here. There's a really important article that I want to pull up that is one of my favorite authors, who is Whitney Webb. Now, she is, I think she's one of the best of our time, and she writes a really very well-researched stuff, and her stuff is intense, and she cuts into all of it. This is a good read. These are all the things that we need to watch out for. So, in a nutshell, because I can't read through this whole article during this show, I just want to point it out to you. This is in my show notes. I want everybody who cares about the MAHA movement, enjoy the celebration. We've earned it. Really, this is a huge, big deal. It's wonderful. I truly believe that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is going to do the right thing, if he can. Okay, I really believe that this is a really great thing, and I'm so excited, especially for our children. And what I hope to see the future is that we have informed consent, liability return to all products, including vaccines. So vaccines are held accountable for products that injure. And that informed consent is something that people respect, and it's no longer seen as some holy religious product. Remember, this is a product. At the end of the day, vaccines are a product. Vaccines are a product. All products are regulated through the FDA. Vaccines are a product. So, like with any other product on the market, there is liability. so there should be for vaccines. Now, Elizabeth Warren had the audacity, and I used to be a huge fan of Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Okay, I was a big time supporter of I canvassed for Bernie Sanders back in 2016. Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, they were the biggest, most disappointing senators where I saw their true colors. They're not for the people, and really made me think about maybe they started off as for the people. Maybe they did, right? Let's give them the benefit of the doubt, because maybe people enter into politics with good intentions, and then power corrupts. So what I'm thinking what we should do as a people is really push for term limits so that everybody, the president, the senators, the representatives, all the maximum you get is 2 terms. What is it for senators? It's 14 years. We should shorten that up. If it's a 7-year term for a senator, I forget what that is, how long they're in it. But they're in there for a long time, ain't they? I mean, they're in there a long, long time. And what happens is they start to get entrenched in the money system. So I think that we should have term limits, and then maybe we will get the best of somebody like Senator Warren. Maybe she wrote a great book years ago, a really good book called The Two-Income Trap, where she really gets into some of the nuts and bolts of the problem within our society today. It's like, did she even ever write that book? Anyway, she was one of the most disappointing ones. Her and Bernie Sanders were absolutely so disastrously disappointing, and just the way that Warren kept going on about Bobby Kennedy suing the manufacturers of vaccines it's just absolutely comical and ridiculous. It really is. And I'm just gonna check something in real time, make sure that I'm good as I do this live in real time, guys. I apologize for that. Nope, I'm good. Don't have to fix that. Just wanted to make sure. Some little technical glitch that I wanted to get into. Let me just transfer back to here. So Whitney Webb gets into this article where she discusses the deregulatory paradigm that would allow a proliferation of dubious products on the U.S. market under the guise of innovation and efficiency. So what Webb is discussing is that we could have a potential flood of mRNA products in the market. And that could be more than just vaccines. I mean, we need to be really aware of that. That this guy here is not great. And this guy's name is Jim O'Neill. He is the opposite of RFK. And he's going to be serving as, he's just like right underneath. He's Deputy Secretary of Health and Human Services, where he works under RFK. So one of the things that is interesting is his connection to a guy named Peter Thiel. Also there's something called Planeteur, which is like a CIA-backed like technology biosecurity system. And what the real concern is that Mr. Global, I'm taking that from Catherine Austin Fitts. I love her. If you don't follow Solari Report, you should. But Catherine Austin Fitts has a great name for the globalist, Mr. Global. So I'm gonna totally take that from her. So Mr. Global, and Mr. Global wants to out China in the United States. And when you read through Whitney Webb's article, you'll see how Trump is surrounded by technocrats. And what we as the people need to do is push hard. We have a great opportunity right now that we can't let us slip us by. We can't just go all sit back and be like, oh yay, all these people are just going to take care of it. Bobby Kennedy's going to take care of the vaccines. Tulsi Gabbard's going to watch out for the intelligence and be like watching out, make sure we don't have felonious wars and this, that, and the other thing or whatnot. But you can't rely upon people. The people can't rely upon people to be their saviors. And we can't get so caught up in the cult of personality that we can't critically, like Whitney Webb has gotten a lot of pushback because she's been really critical. I love her work. And sometimes her work is really, really hard to deal with because she is so on point, so hard hitting. that she kind of takes the fizz out of your champagne bottle you just popped celebrating RFK's appointment to HHS. And I think you still can celebrate that appointment. I think this is a really great thing. And if anything, what it shows is how powerful the movement of people can be. Because what RFK getting appointed to HHS really, in my opinion, symbolizes the power and the force behind the people. This is a very real grassroots movement. MAHA is a very real grassroots movement. So is MAGA. MAGA is a very real grassroots movement. And I think both MAGA and MAHA are the people. Those are the people. And we have to be outside of the cult of personality, be it any of these players on the public square, on the global stage, be it Trump, be it RFK, be it Tulsi Gabbard. I'm just naming a few off the top of my head. We cannot get caught up in the cult of personality. We need to hold this government's feet to the fire, and we need to absolutely, with every ounce of our being, resist the digital technology. Okay. I mean, digital technology. I'm sorry. Like the digital currency, which Trump, he took away the CBDC. But Webb talks about how they're going to have that coming in through in another way. She's connecting it to some of the stuff that Elon Musk is doing with Doge. And Catherine Austin Fitts of Solari Report also gets into that too. I should have tagged that article in my show notes and I didn't. I really encourage you guys to look up the Solari Report. That's an excellent resource. I'm not going to get into a lot of what Austin Fitts says. I'm just really concentrating on Whitney Webb for this moment. And this particular article, which is in the show notes, sorry, not quite in there on YouTube or Instagram, but when I post up to Substack, all the notes will be in there. They are up on Facebook and Twitter, so you could look at this article yourself. Whitney Webb's page is called The Unlimited Hangout, and this is the article that she has here on James O'Neill. She gets into Peter Thiel. She talks about James O'Neill and wants to get this product out, which is an aluminum adjuvant that would be given to, this is Jim O'Neill, who's going to be under Bobby Kennedy. Okay, he's the deputy secretary. Jim O'Neill is not a good character. He's not her friend, Maha. He's not Maha. Jim O'Neill is not Maha. And I wish I read this article sooner. I don't know if Jim O'Neill has been confirmed yet. You know, Bobby just got confirmed. Maybe Jim O'Neill is confirmed as well once Bobby's confirmed, or if he needs to go through that process. If Jim O'Neill still needs to go through that process, and I should look into that, find that out for us so that we could protest that and say, no, we don't want that. So Jim O'Neill is a bad character on the stage. He's like the antithesis of everything that Bobby Kennedy is. I mean, these are hard realities that we as a people need to pay attention to. Look, our active civic participation is extremely necessary at this point. We cannot become transfixed by the cult of personality. We are all adults here. We need to hold these people's feet to the fire. That includes Bobby Kennedy. That includes all of these government entities. We need to encourage them or let them know that we're not going to tolerate mRNA products in our food. We're not going to tolerate like the mRNA products being dropped from drones and all kinds of things that they want to do with this technology. It's really, really disturbing. We at least want to get like information and labeling out there and warnings put on this. This is where I think we could give the pushback and push really hard with Bobby Kennedy at HHS to make sure that this does not get railroaded by people like Jim O'Neill and Larry Ellison. And there's a really scary video of Larry Ellison talking about, I should pull up that video for you guys, where Larry Ellison is talking about how he has this AI that can watch everything. And that AI will keep people in check. And Whitney Webb gets into predictive crime. So they're going to use AI and algorithms to watch the population. So the algorithms and all the data that AI collects, this is why this is so dangerous for our freedom, for our sovereignty, and why this is a really important article, I think, for everyone in MAHA to educate themselves about and we need to make a bridge to listening to each other and really unifying as a people. And the powers that be do not want the people to unite and say no, and so we want to unite, and we want to stay strong, and we want to not get lazy, not be like, okay, they're gonna save this. No, now is the time to be extremely active, to be extremely diligent, and pay attention to these characters like Jim O'Neill, who's really the antithesis of Robert Kennedy Jr., where we are looking at, the threat of AI, a total surveillance state like nothing we've ever seen before. Now, I'm going to jump into some of the legislation that's happening in Connecticut because this is a good segue. So, yay, Bobby Kennedy is now head of HHS. I don't want to take away from that amazing victory. This is a great day for our children, but I want to be really realistic. And I think that I can be really realistic with the movement of the MAHA people, the MAHA moms, because I think that this group of people is really discerning and wants to get at the truth and is active and motivated and activated. And so this is a really important thing, to stay active, to stay motivated, and to stay diligent, because if we don't stay diligent, we could have really bad situation with a technocracy. Yeah, Trump is surrounded by technocrats, and he is a businessman. So the way he's going to look at AI and mRNA technology, just as he looked at warp speed, okay? Now, just as he looked at an Operation Warp Speed, as I learned from RFK's testimony during his confirmation hearings, is that Trump had put a lot of different things into warp speed, including looking for alternative treatments, which I didn't know about. I thought warp speed was all about the vaccine. But okay, it might have been positive to open it up to all the things that could help with COVID, right? But the really bad thing that warp speed did is it put into overdrive the ability for these new products to just be like thrown on the market. So let's really stay diligent in staying on top of the mRNA, the AI, and the digital prison hell that they're building, Mr. Global is building, because, China, if you guys haven't been paying attention, I've spoken a lot about China. China has a digital surveillance system where you are monitored for everywhere you go. You have a card that could be turned on and turned off at any given time. China is known as what you would call a technate. And if folks aren't familiar with technocracy, I really encourage you to check out, his last name is Wood. I can't think of his first name now. Anyway, there's I totally spacing on his name. Oh gosh, there's a lot about technocracy, and his name is Wood, and I can't think of it. Whitney Webb is your technocracy lady, so you can go to that link. She's just as good as, I can't think of his first name. It's Wood, and I can't think of the first name. And I did used to have his book on my desk, and I don't right now, so that's unfortunate. So technocracy is a thing that you should really find out about if you don't already know what technocracy is, what a technake is, what technocrats are. Basically, technocracy is ruled by experts. And we saw the technocratic machine moving while we were in the midst of COVID. So this guy here is bad. Pay attention to him. You can find this article at Unlimited Hangout. Jim O'Neill, Peter Thiel, Larry Ellison, their AI technology. We must stay strong, MAGA. So, MAHA and MAGA. So you got to, celebrate, sip your champagne. It's all great. And even with the Doge, okay? Even with the Doge, Elon Musk should be held to the same thing that he's doing everywhere else. I think it's great. They're exposing all this corruption. I think that is fabulous. But I think we should not be fooled into thinking that Elon Musk is going to be out for the little guy. These are big-time billionaire businessmen. They're not out for us, guys. Just be aware of that. It's great to see this kind of playing out where the corruption is being revealed, some of it. It's like just a little peek here, a little peek there, and I think it's great. But we need to have that be also in check. So we have to be a very discerning populace, and we cannot fall into the cult of personality. That's as bad as falling into identity politics and what the extreme leftists have been told. They're like out of their mind. I can't even have a conversation with an extreme leftist. They're just nuts. So I can't even go there. And I'm like, honestly, don't even want to, with the masks and the whole 9 yards. And like, you don't say anything about all the mandates that Biden thrusted upon us. But you're freaking out over these things now. And it's just, frustrating as all get up. So I have to get over my frustrations and try to learn to make a bridge, even with the left, because at the end of the day, we're all people, right? So we really don't want to be under total technocratic thumb, whether you're right or left. We're all part of the same bird. We share the same country. And I think at the end of the day, if we really sat down together, we would have more that we are in common than we are not. All right, so let me get on to some of the things that are happening in Connecticut, which is really kind of scary. There are a couple articles that I gave you for a limited hangout, but I wanted to get into the agenda for a hearing that's happening today. Here, let me pull this up. This is happening in Connecticut. I'm going to go right into Connecticut here. I might even pull us up and take us over to the hearing room. I wanted to get up there today, and I'm not able to get out of my house and get up to the Capitol today. I wanted to capture some of that. But you can reach out. If you didn't get in testimony, that's okay. There's more than just testifying that you can do to combat some of the laws that are coming out of Hartford under this supermajority. A supermajority of any kind is never any good. This is insane. We need a balance. We need a balance of voices that really represents the diversity of the people. And we don't have that right now in Connecticut. In fact, we have a supermajority hell-bent on extremist policies. And so this hearing starts in like a half an hour. So I don't know why it is that they think that it's okay. That they think it's okay to have this hearing starts today on Thursday afternoon at 3:00. And look at how many bills they have here. Look at how many bills they have here. This is one hearing. The last hearing that I went to last week was 14 hours long and ended at 3:00 in the morning and had even more bills than what this does on the agenda. Do you think this is right? Do you think that they should have look at all these bills. They have 10 bills they're considering in one hearing. 10 bills. And one of the things is, too, that this is just, it's mind-blowing how bad it is. It is absolutely mind-blowing how bad it is because, like, the one bill that's going to get a lot of testimony, it's going to take up a good chunk of the hearing, and they know this, is going to be the act establishing, where is that? The act establishing the public libraries. So let's take a look at this. This is SB 1271. And this is, it should go to there. Maybe I don't have a good internet connection. To require public school libraries, no. Sorry, that is the wrong bill. That is the wrong bill. This is today's agenda. I'm pretty sure. Where the heck did it go? So they have, we'll just look through all these bills real quick. So they have an act establishing a task force to study childhood development, prenatal depression, screening tools, and data sharing systems. And now remember, I was talking about AI. Connecticut now has a system called Connie. The Connie system is collecting all medical data. You can opt out of Connie. I did a show on that. You can get to that through my Substack on that Sparks Report. You can find me on Substack at Sparks Report. And I put that in the notes. That's on Twitter and Facebook. But you can find me at Sparks Report. JCherry152 at Sparks Report. So we have an act establishing a task force to study the development of prenatal depression screening tools and data sharing systems. So they're sharing this data, okay? And so there's one bill. Then we have another one, an act concerning children's programs. I'm not really sure what that is, but we could tap into that. Some of these are just blank bills. And this is, here we go, the raised bill. Let's take a peek at it. Now, you can find all of this stuff on the Connecticut General Assembly website, which you should acclimate yourself to, get very used to using that site. It's extremely important that all of us stay very aware of what's happening as best we can. People are working, they have lives. Nobody has a lot of time to follow this stuff. That's why I'm happy to do a lot of the following for you guys and put it out there. I can't capture even a fraction of it. That's why if there are more people out there who are attracted to researching this stuff and keeping an eye on our government, totally do it. I'm thinking of offering a workshop on OBS to teach other people how to use this wonderful software that is open source software, meaning you're not having to pay huge amounts to have a piece of software that you have to pay to a major developer. You are using an open source software system that's based on donation, and it really works pretty amazingly. I mean, when it fails, it's hard, but that's your own, you have to be the sleuth and figure out the technical aspects of that. But, there's so much happening at the legislative office building and Hartford that it's really hard to keep up with. So I encourage people who want to be citizen journalists to really do it. Go do it. Because if there are more eyes that are on this, the better. Because the media is a failure. The media is paid by the government. The government pays the media. Governor Lamont paid $72 million to the media during COVID. And now they have a bill so that the government can buy advertising space. That's terrible. They just had that bill was in the last hearing on last Friday. That lasted 14 hours and went till 3 a.m. So this is an act concerning children's programs. The Commissioner of Children and Families shall conduct a study to evaluate the efficacy of the programs administered by the Department of Children and Families. The Commissioner shall report in accordance with the provisions of Section 11A of the General Statutes, the finding of such study to the Joint Standing Committee. Okay, so they're going to be looking into DCF. So every time they have a study, that means they're going to be spending a lot of money. That's what that study means. They're going to open up and they're going to create something. It's a very vague bill, but that bill is there. Yeah, I think DCF should be reined in. I don't know if this government is going to do anything to that effect. An act concerning children's health. Let's take a look at what this says here. To require the Commissioner of Children and Families to conduct a study to determine whether policy and procedural changes within the Department of Children and Families may improve the health of children. Let's take a look at the raised bill. I don't know. The more the state gets involved, the less I like it. Okay, so I guess they're going to conduct another study. So they're going to conduct another study. And usually these lead to new departments or new public-private partnerships and things of that nature. So there's that. All right, let's take a look. Oops, I lost it. Hold on a second while I go pick it back up. Oh, lordy, lordy. Here we go. The agenda. So this is the agenda. This is available at the CGA website. We're going to go on the CGA website. I'm going to play a little bit of the hearing that they have going on now, if it works out okay. So then we got another one, an act concerning state contracts with nonprofit human service providers, an act implementing the recommendations of risk limiting audits. Oh, we got 2 pages of bills here. So I'm thinking, oh, it's not, it's not too bad. It's only 9 bills. No, but it's more than 9 bills today. It's more than that. It's like, I don't even know, like, these things that they're doing where they're just pumping it out so fast. It's the death of your liberty and your freedom by 1,000 legislative bills. That's what this comes down to. It's impossible for these legislators even to read through and think about all these bills that they're voting on, that they're ultimately going to vote on. So, okay, so we got that. So we got an act implementing the recommendations of risk limiting audits working groups. I don't even know what that is. An act exempting the name and address of an individual reporting an allegation involving bigotry. Oh, here's an interesting one. SB. There are a couple of these actually in different languages. There are a couple of bills just like this in the hearing that happened on Friday. They also have some kind of hate speech anonymity bill where anyone who reports a hate crime or hate, whatever, however you want to describe hate. First of all, don't get caught up by the word hate. We already have laws on the books that protect people from violent crimes that would be considered, a crime. So if somebody commits a crime, there's a law for that. So adding this hate on there creates this, it's nebulous. And it's the weaponization of altruism that we really have to watch out for, because that weaponization of altruism, it's like now it's deemed hateful to say that a biological man is a man. Sorry, that's not hateful. That's the absolute truth. But the state of Connecticut would like it to make it you're like a hate crime, hate language, hate speech, bigotry, whatever. So the bias, I'm biased because I'm talking about biology. And I was just in a hearing that I spent hours in last week on Friday, where I listened to these folks who I feel really bad for, many of them autistic. Many of these folks are autistic. And many of the people there in that room were men dressed as women. So now, I would be considered biased for speaking like that. I'm wondering if there's going to come a time in the state of Connecticut where I could have a problem for saying those things. Like that is suddenly considered hateful. So that they're pushing this legislation. There's even more on this. This is bad. And we're going to go take a look in that hearing in just a minute. But I want to go through these bills. Did they even kick up yet? I think the hearing did kick up a little while ago, so we'll go check it out in a minute. So this is an act exempting the name and address of an individual reporting allegations involving bigotry or bias of the alleged offender from disclosure under the Freedom of Information Act. So this is also a similar bill was raised in the other committee and another agenda and another bill, same kind of thing. Let's take a look at the bill. Okay, so new, this is what it says. It's going to add, effective October 1st, the name and address of an individual reporting the name and address of alleged offender in a report of an incident involving an allegation of bigotry. An allegation. I could be considered a bigot for saying that there's no such thing as a trans woman. That would be considered bigotry. I mean, yes, there are men who dress as women. I get, but you're not, okay, you're a trans woman, but you're not a woman. You're fine. Okay, let me backtrack that. All right, there are trans women, but they're not women. That does not negate the fact that biological sex should trump what someone thinks or how they're presenting themselves to the public. There are women's spaces that need to be guarded and protected for biological women only. That's not bigotry. That's a basic fact. This is not okay. This is an encroachment now in women's spaces when it comes to sports, locker rooms, all kinds of different places. It's just not appropriate. And some of the people testifying last week in the bill that would make gender identity be part of our constitutional rights, whatever that means, whatever that entails. And they were people who were saying they had she, her pronouns, but they're men. And so that person could go into a locker room and be fully intact. It's not okay. Look, I don't want to be with my little girl or my grandchild or in a situation where a space that is for women is now being invaded by men. That's not okay. We can't accept this. This is not okay. And that's not bigotry. But with this particular legislation in the state of Connecticut, will it now be considered bigotry? Somebody could report me for my podcast. Starting in October, I could be reported for my podcast because I'm saying this. That's crazy. And anyone can do it totally under a guise of anonymity. Really? Okay, so the incident involving an allegation of bigotry or a bias towards any person or group or person of religiously affiliated entity based in whole or in part on actual perceived race,
religion, ethnicity, disability, sex, sexual orientation, or gender identity or expression of such a person or a group entity, including but not limited to any allegation of violation of all these different subsections and this, that, and the other thing, which I should go and look up these laws because they're probably kind of scary, some of them. They're very Orwellian. So there's got all these subdivisions and subsections. A law enforcement agency, including on the standardized form or other reporting system developed pursuant to the subdivision of subsection, blah, 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 blah. So they want to make a law and make it a lot easier to report people for supposed bigotry and bias. An act exempting the name and address of an individual reporting an allegation involving bigotry or bias and of the alleged offender from disclosure under the Freedom of Information Act. Man, Connecticut, we have really gone to some dark places. So let's keep going here. Let's go back. Sorry about that. My mouse is acting a little wonky. Here we go. Back to the agenda. So here's another one. Number 9, an act making certain terms in electronic book and digital audiobook license agreements or contracts unenforceable. Not sure what that all means. Resolution proposing a state constitutional amendment concerning discrimination on the basis of sex under the Equal Protection Clause. Oh, this is still number SJ 35. So, I'm in the wrong agenda. Like, oh my gosh, that is unfortunate. I apologize for that. I wanted to get into today's agenda, which is all pretty scary stuff. So that act over here, these are all very concerning. So there's not 2 bills. Those are one and the same. I thought I was in today's agenda. I'm in last week's agenda, and I apologize for that. So I want to get into today's agenda, and that was last week's agenda. So all these things are on the horizon in this moment, including, let me just pull this up, which is also very concerning. This is a lot to deal with in Connecticut, and I didn't even get to today's agenda. So this is an act concerning a green economy and environmental protection, and that was in last week's hearing. So this is another constitutional amendment that basically would say that it's going to give the state unprecedented powers over land use and development. And it comes after this concept called 30 by 30, which I'll do a whole show and get into that as we move through. I believe that both of these constitutional amendments are going to pass the House and Senate. It's possible they won't. So continue to contact your legislators. So again, this is with the weaponization of altruism. Everybody wants a clean environment, clean air, clean water, clean earth. Yes, but we don't want to live in a climate jail where we are subjected to what we're dealing with Eversource is just a glimpse of what we're going to have to put up with and deal with under net zero. And net zero is basically a path to poverty for the average person, while these climate scientists and politicians are, pontificating from bullpits in, where are they at the World Economic Forum in Switzerland, Davos, and they're flying in on private jets and, the Kerry, the heck is his first name? That's that windbag Kerry. I can't think of his first name. I'm batting 1,000 today. The previous Senator Kerry, and he has his daughter. She's there too. And they're both, stumping for net zero and combining climate change with public health. So an act concerning a green economy, environmental protection is a constitutional amendment we need to keep an eye on. These bills may seem like, oh, yeah, we want, to protect our environment and stop polluters from polluting, but that's not what this is. And I'll need like a whole show to really dive in and pick it apart, but it's something to really pay attention to. So then we've got, and I see here where I've got so here's the Green Bank, just to really tap in just briefly on this. When you're getting that huge Eversource bill and those public benefit charges, that's not all for people not paying their bills. That also helps to fund things like the Green Bank. It funds the solar panels and all these programs. This money goes in through the Green Bank. It's basically like it's just they're like funneling money. It's a big boys club that we're not a part of. Connecticut was the first state in the nation to establish a green bank. It's a it's a quasi government entity. It's a public-private partnership. It is not this wonderful thing, makes the spirit of Earth Day last all year long. No, this is why your energy bills are so high. These folks are coming up with all the climate disaster and stuff. Yes, we need to protect our Earth. We should always be thinking of how do we maintain clean air, clean water, and no pesticides or chemicals in our food or on our food and things like that. I would say being a part of MAHA and really embracing the MAHA movement, that's a big deal for people like us. So, but this green bank and this climate change stuff and all these laws like net zero, that isn't there to protect the planet. It's there to usurp what Catherine Austin Fitts would say are the real assets, because we've been robbed blind. The Treasury has been robbed. The fiat currency is going nowhere. It's insolvent, and the debt just keeps growing and growing and growing. And so what this whole net zero and total control grid kind of makes up for this, the fact that they robbed us blind. Where's all this money that disappeared into government starting from 9/11? And we could go down that far. But the Green Bank is not what you think it is. Invest in a green Liberty note. Oh, wow. You can invest as little as $100 or $10,000. But anyway, you get big tax breaks and stuff if you're an angel donor, which means you're not seen, or a venture capitalist, or you're investing in all kinds, whatever, windmills and solar panels. So this is part of why your Eversource bill is massive, because the Green Bank, since 2011, has been driving up our energy costs so much since then, and it's only getting worse and only going to get worse. So that's the Green Bank. And now I just want to get that agenda. And I didn't even get into talking about nudging, but I have that in my notes, and we'll talk. You can read this article about nudging. Oh, I'm not even going to get into that today because I'm already getting into a full hour, and I don't want to go that long, but we'll talk about nudging and AI. But real briefly, nudging is the government has this whole behavioral psychological policy that they follow, and they use something called nudging. And so when you're driving and you're seeing buckle up your seatbelt, or these signs that tell you all different things, or you get something in the mail that says get your flu shot to help grandma or whatever, those are tactics that they use to psychologically manipulate the populace to behave in a way that the policymakers would like. I'm going to do a whole other show on that, but that is in my notes. You can find a link in that. I'm not going to discuss that as long as I originally was planning on today. And where is that agenda for today's hearing? Hold on. I'm going to take you right to the CGA website, live in real time. We're going to go there together. Very easy. You just type in the CGA, Connecticut General Assembly. There we are. Now, one of the great things about this website is they have their calendar, and you can see their calendar for the whole week, so you can see what they're planning. And it's always a ton of stuff. It's overwhelming, guys. That's why as many people as possible could be eyes on the Connecticut General Assembly would be wonderful, because they're pumping out a lot of really bad laws. I mean, like a lot. So one of the things on the agenda today, they've got two big things. I'm even going to take us in, and we'll listen to some of the hearing live on YouTube. But I'm going to pull you into the agenda before we jump into their live. I'm going to pull you into the agenda. Where is that? Oops, that's Friday. We're in Thursday. So I wanted to share that agenda with you. And this is in a children's committee. So let's take a look at the agenda before we jump into the live. Now, on here it was 10 bills. That's why I got confused, because today's agenda isn't as long as last Friday's agenda. So today's agenda for February the 13th is there's 10 bills up on here. 10 bills. Now, one of the bills is Senator Duff's bill, and that's an act. Okay, where am I? A task force to study the development of children's programs. Is that not in here? Huh. I thought that we had the library bill in here. Maybe I'm mistaken. That's weird. It's not on the agenda. Let me see something here. Where that bill is and why it's not on the agenda. Because maybe I made a mistake or something. I'm pretty sure that that bill is up there today. Let me just check here. Live in real time, guys, as I'm a little confused. They like to keep us confused with the legislative body because, like, if you're confused and there's all these bills, it's like impossible to keep track of. It really is. It's absolutely impossible to keep track of. So this is in the, let's see. Yes, this is in the Committee on Children, SB 1271. Oh, there he is. Oh, here we are. An act concerning school and public libraries to require public schools and libraries to develop collection, developments, and maintenance policy, library programs, and display policy, and library material review. So this isn't the Senator Duff bill that I was thinking of. Let's take a look at this bill, though. There's a lot of stuff going on with the libraries that are really kind of strange. Library and other educational material means any material belonging to or on loan to and otherwise in the custody of the school, library, media center, but not limited to nonfiction and fiction books. School library staff means a school library or media. School librarian or member whose assignment is the school library. Okay, here's the effective. Establish a library working group to develop model written policies regarding collection, development, and maintenance, library display, and program and material review, reconsideration, and uniform request for review and reconsideration of the school library. So what they're getting into, there's a lot of battle going on with the what they're calling book banning. And so this is a pretty lengthy bill. So here, starting in March 1st, 2026, the working group shall submit the model written policy regarding collection development and maintenance, library display, and programs. So there's a lot of battle right now with parents being upset about books that are, I had my Twitch, I got thrown in Twitch jail for talking about Bob Duff's bill. And this is not Bob Duff's bill that's up today. This is something else. And this is just about going into the material and what they're how they're gonna develop this collection. And so they're saying require students access to age appropriate and grade level appropriate material. So there's gonna be a lot of debate in here from parents about what is age appropriate, and it's something that a lot of people are upset about, and reasonably so. And this is where we should be able to have open discourse with this kind of legislation. And there's like a battle on the library front. So this is a pretty long bill. It's 12 pages long. So now another bill that I wanted to share with you guys that's really important that's coming up. And this is an act concerning the establishment of a universal basic income. Yes, so they're going to start a pilot program in Connecticut to establish a universal basic income. I'm very concerned about that. That is where your digital control grid, where I opened up discussing Whitney Webb and what she discusses about the, AI and data collection and the coming digital kind of prisonscape that we could find ourselves in if we don't resist this. They're collecting your medical data. They want to put smart meters on our houses. They are collecting your medical data. There is a system that just came into effect online in July of 2024 called Connie, and this collects all of your medical data. you can opt out of Connie. I have that in my Substack. I did an article on that where you can opt out of Connie, and they also have something called Wiz, and that's to follow the immunization record. So they could call you and remind you that you have to take your child has to take all these shots. You could opt out of that as well. So we need to take advantage of these opt-outs and opt out of them and refuse them. Refuse smart meters. Refuse to be followed and your data collected. So your doctor will know what's going on. No, you know what? I think we should start making it a policy that we have keep our own medical records. That enough of this where the person doesn't have their medical records. This is nonsense. We don't need the state to collect this data. Data is a tool of control, and we need to pay attention to that reality. So yes, there is a working group for a universal basic income in Connecticut. That is the nail in Connecticut's coffin. There are many nails in Connecticut's coffin being hammered in this legislative body that is way overwhelming. So let's take a little stroll and take a peek, if we can, into their hearing room and see what's going on in today's hearing. And we won't stay in there for too long because I've already been on for about an hour. So we'll just take a listen for a few minutes of the hearing. This is in the Children's Committee. There's other hearings today too. So there's they've got Labor and Public Employees Committee public hearing. I mean, they got all kinds of stuff going on. It's overwhelming. Higher Education and Employment Advancement Committee, Informational Forum, and blah, 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 blah. Okay, 1:00, Education Committee on Children Informed Forum, Putting Young People First, a briefing of the Young People First report by Boston Consulting Group. Oh, God. Oh, yay! The Boston Consulting Group. Oh, I bet that'll be interesting. I'll have to go check that out. That happened today at 1. But let's go look in here and see in the Children's Committee. All right, let's head right to the YouTube and take a peek at what's going on. Here we go. Oh, I know her.
So they can buy homes, so they can be part of our communities and not stressing the human service system.
Thank you. I appreciate that answer. And I would just say, just a comment, I'm assuming that many of the families that would benefit get earned income credit. So I was kind of curious as to how that would impact the tax revenue. But thank you so much for being here and your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative.
Senator Martin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Senator. How are you? Senator Bai, regarding the standard rates, what are they currently now? And you mentioned that the rates that's being proposed would take us to, I believe you said 2028. And how would that change going forward? So currently, what are the rates? And if the timeline is up to 2028, what happens after that? Do you have to come back to us to get a rate increase?
Thank you for the question, Senator. Currently, we have no salary requirements for state-funded programs, so that doesn't exist because the state does not pay at the market rate. They pay well below the market rate, so a lot of times programs are fundraising on their own. They're combining funding streams, working to pay their staff a living wage. So it's a huge problem in early childhood. There are empty classrooms across the state because programs can't recruit enough teachers. So there is nothing now. The plan is, and this legislature requested that we develop a salary scale that would be the full cost of quality and be aligned with kindergarten teacher rates. We can send that to this committee. I'll ask Elena and Kristen to help us remember to do that so we can send you that. The plan, Senator Martin, is that in 2027, under the governor's early childhood proposal, OEC and SDE would issue a request for proposals, and communities would send us their plan for early childhood, and the endowment fund would fund on an increasing basis more and more communities to make sure that every parent has access to preschool. So Then when those slots are awarded, when towns that, you get 100 spaces in Bristol, then the payment rate, everyone who applies will know what the payment rate is, and they will apply knowing that if they receive these funds, they will pay teachers within that salary scale. So it won't be until 2028 that the rates are at a place to pay within that salary scale. And the governor's plan calls for the next 2 years for communities to do planning, programs to be working toward accreditation, so they are more likely to be able to get the funding. And then OEC and SDE will issue an RFP, and the salary scale will be followed. In terms of coming back, I think you make a good point, Senator Martin, that OEC should, perhaps work with this committee to come up with some model that assures that that pay scale keeps up with inflation. At this point, we're hoping to meet that pay scale, and we believe we can with the increase in rates coming from the trust fund. But I think you make a good point. We don't want to be coming before the legislature with the pay scale again and again. We want to set it up in a way that's sensible and the programs can live with. And there will be a range. We're not going to tell people exactly what to pay their teachers. There'll be a range, with the guiding principle being a bachelor level teacher who meets all the credentials will be paid on par with the kindergarten teacher, whether they'll be paid as a kindergarten teacher, whether they're in a family childcare home, a preschool, childcare center, any program that we fund that is getting children ready for kindergarten that serves 3 and 4 year olds.
Thank you, Senator. One last question. So with this new trust fund, how many additional slots or total slots will the state be, I guess, have at, how many total slots?
Ultimately, the trust fund by 2032, because the RFP will roll out and there'll be a 5-year RFP and the slots will roll out as the funds increase. There are 13,000 new preschool spaces and 7,000 spaces for preschoolers that will go from part day, some part week, to at least school day, school year. So it impacts 20,000 families will now have access to preschool that is at least school day, school year. And in addition, current families, because we're building on the current system, we're not building a whole new system. We serve a lot of children now. 19,000 families would experience reduced tuition because of the trust fund.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Senators. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Martin. Representative Comey.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Hello, Commissioner. Good to see you. Sorry I can't be there today, but our early childhood, we have in the state, our delivery systems are a mixed delivery system. And so with the governor, with the proposal that is in front of us, with the governor that you were just speaking about, when you're thinking about communities coming to you or coming to the state with plans for a more robust early childhood programming, are you thinking that this will be part of the public schools, or like right now, Branford, for instance, has 4-year-old half day. Next year they're going to go to 4-year-old full day and cut down on the number of kids, I guess, and have a little bit of a parent pay involved in that. And the goal is to grow the program and to offer as much free early childhood care that we can to the residents. So I'm wondering if you're talking about granting money to districts, or what does it look like on the community level?
I'm so glad you asked, because it will really depend on your community. It's a mixed model. We really believe it's got to be a combination of family childcare centers, preschools, public schools, just like it is now. Right now, there are about 19,000 preschoolers in public schools served, and a little more than 20,000 served through OEC programs and Head Start. So It will depend on your community. If your community has a robust program for 4-year-olds and you're looking to expand that, particularly if you have a number of families where affording preschool is out of reach, your plan that would come to OEC and SDE would say, our plan is to have X number of 4-year-olds in the preschool, and then we need X number of wraparound spaces, because this many parents work, and then we need this number of 3-year-old spaces, and we think those should be 10-hour a day, 50 weeks a year. So we really want parents at the table, and I might ask Deputy Commissioner Trueworthy to weigh in here. So there'll be a local governance process, which I think you know about, but I don't know, Deputy Commissioner, if you want to weigh in to just round that out.
Sure. So as the commissioner said, we're really looking to build upon the current early childhood system that we have in place. And we know just how important local voices are, right? And engagement of the local communities to really understanding what are their unique needs and what are the unique needs of their families and stakeholders in their communities. And so a transition process is happening currently from school readiness councils and local early childhood collaboratives to one entity called the local governance partner that will be in the current communities where those are located now. And the idea is that it is a community table, right, where they're looking at the holistic needs of children and families across those towns, and will be able to complete a needs assessment where they're really identifying what are the true needs of our families, asking the families, having parent-to-parent messengers go out to be able to seek that information from families, and being able to compile all that information to share with us at the OEC to say, this is what we need, how can we help to align all the resources.
And I would just follow up with a second question regarding that, because that sounds great. I mean, I do sit on my local governance council, so school readiness, and have been on both sides of that table. Are you going to, is in the plan, I should say, in the plan, is there preparations for, is there technical assistance for our communities to go
Yes.
through this process?
Definitely. We've worked with OPM, and the trust fund is designed to have dollars for communities to support this. I'm going to answer this quickly because the part about that aligns here was about the wages, and the wages are part of the early start and the governor's proposal, but I know that's not this bill, and I know there are a lot of people waiting to testify. So we'll be talking about this at the Education Committee, I'm sure in front of the Appropriations Committee, so there'll be a lot of chances, and we're really open to the input of legislators. You know, that's the whole point. There's planning time to make sure we're thinking of things, and you'll hear from constituents who will have information that will help us.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Wielander.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioner, for being here today.
Yep.
I had I think just a really quick question about 6900 and 6903.
Mm-hmm.
Reading through your testimony and understanding and appreciating very much the hesitancy to duplicate efforts and sort of reinvent the wheel, do you still see OEC as, I guess, potentially a hub for this information with all of these different partners going forward? And because there was I know in your testimony on 6903, you recommended not establishing that pilot because it was duplicative. And so I just didn't know if you could sort of talk about what you might envision given the intent of each of these bills.
Well, I think what would be great is to find time to sit with the committee to see exactly what you're trying to accomplish with these. We just don't want to, we spend a lot of time going to meetings and committees, and it takes us away from the work of doing the data sharing. I think where we could really make progress here is on the data sharing and the data work, which I know is important to you and important. I know Senator Martin and I have had conversations about this. So, you know, maybe we could drill down on where we can make the most progress and what the highest needs are. We just don't want to have something. We want to make sure And even in our agency, right now, we're trying to have a more unified approach to home visiting and universal nurse home visiting, and think about how we can make the best use of those resources together. So, and then how do we share data between them? And so I think here we agree with the intent and where you want to go. We just want to be careful not to duplicate. So we're happy to sit down and be really specific.
I appreciate that. Yeah, simple and straightforward is often
Yes.
the best way to, especially for families, if you're dealing with a newborn and that's your brain isn't working on full power anyway. So let's make it a little bit easier. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Representative. Any other questions? Not seeing anyone or anyone online? We really appreciate you being here. Thank you and look forward to working more around these issues that we discussed.
Thank you so much.
All right, so this is a live hearing right now, and they are considering 10 bills on the schedule. And what they were just talking about is like a universal, like pre-K, which is being discussed at the legislative body right now. And right there is Senator Mayer, whose daughter is like the head of NPR or holds a position at NPR, and it's interesting. And she's the one that co-sponsored the bill with Senator Duff about having like this strange library bill which would give librarians immunity from criminal liability, but that bill's not being heard today. Another library bill is being heard today, an extensive bill. I'll let this go. We'll take another peek and let's see what else they're talking about for a minute. All right,
Thank you so much.
Next up, we will hear from Cesar Allman. I hope I got your last name right. Ailman or Allman?
You did. No, that was
All
good.
right,
Thank
good.
you so much.
Thank you.
I hope I get everybody's names right. That's always the hardest part. Good afternoon, Senator Mayer, Representative Perez, Representative Wellender, Representative Keith, and Representative Martinez, and esteemed members of the committee. My name is Cesar Aleman, and I'm the director of the Connecticut Urban Opportunity Collaborative. I am here today to show our support for HB number 6841, an act concerning the establishment of a universal basic income pilot program. Through the Connecticut Urban Opportunity Collaborative, which is made up of 3 of the largest community foundations here in the state of Connecticut, including Hartford Foundation for Public Giving, Fairfield County's Community Foundation, and the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven, we have launched a multi-city direct cash assistance program in 2024 that is serving 120 families over the state of Connecticut. Oh. No problem. Can you hear me now? Okay, great. That might help. Hopefully you caught some of that. In 2024, the Connecticut Urban Opportunity Collaborative invested in Up Together's direct cash assistance pilot, which is serving 120 families across 3 different regions in the state of Connecticut. We did so under the understanding that Connecticut residents are currently experiencing acute economic challenges that we're all trying to address through various methods that you're hearing about today and in various hearings regarding housing, regarding income, regarding livable wage. And yet there is an immediate need that they need to be able to get to be able to support families and children in the state of Connecticut as is. There is a growing body of evidence, not just in Connecticut, but across the country, that shows that direct cash programs operating around the country demonstrate incredible impacts in the general well-being of families that allow them dignity, autonomy, and independence to be able to move forward with necessary decisions that they must make for their families to thrive and to have healthy and prosperous lives. We support the legislation to study the impact of direct cash assistance here in the state of Connecticut, and we currently are one of 3 pilots in the state of Connecticut that are privately funded and are operating currently in the state of Connecticut. The aforementioned Up Together pilot, the Bridge Projects pilot, and also a series of pilots from a local organization called 4CT. Collectively, these pilots are already benefiting over 700 households and thousands of families and thousands of people within those families across the state. And they are showing us a opportunity.
Can you please
to
summarize?
Yes. And all what we would encourage is just an opportunity for the length of the pilot to be considered a little bit for a longer period. And we would also like to acknowledge that there is an existing body of work that could contribute to the way in which you think about implementation. We have provided a full set of testimony that you're welcome to read at your leisure, and we would be happy to provide answers to any questions you might have. Apologies if I went over.
Thank you so much. A question, Representative Paris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not so much a question, but a comment. And Cesar, I appreciate you being here. And I also deeply appreciate the tremendous work that you've done across the state with many other advocates and many other thought partners on this within this process. I think the biggest thing is universal basic income is a burgeoning idea and act that's happening across the country, and many would be shocked to know that it's happening successfully in Republican states and in many Republican towns. And I think that what this can do is obviously help families get ahead and stay ahead and move ahead, and move them off of, move them away from being able to have to live paycheck to paycheck, be worried about falling back, possibly falling back into poverty, or into poverty rather, if they've not done that before. But it gives their children a head start. And so I appreciate your work. I deeply care very much for the intent of this bill, and I look forward to the work that will be done around this concept, not just this year, but beyond. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Rep. Paris.
And seeing no questions in the room or online, we appreciate your testimony. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, so that's going to this hearing is going on, and you guys can check that out at the CGA. That's the Connecticut General Assembly website. And I'm gonna stream off. I'm gonna sign out. I just wanted to make a couple of comments about the universal basic income. Again, all these ideas, they just sound, so nice, and who could argue helping families out, get a leg up, and, thrive and be well in life, in the community, right? But here's the thing. It's all ideology. Who's paying for it? You know who's paying for it? The middle class is paying for this in these extreme taxes. And you know what? The person that's collecting the UBI, they're never going to get ahead. It's just like welfare. And so what they want to do, and this is coming out of Yuval Harari, and how I wish I had that video queued right up in this moment. But we're, with AI coming at us the way it's coming at us, they say that, jobs, a lot of jobs are going to be obliterated because of AI, and there's going to be, these stores without, humans. We're already seeing that, where they have self-checkouts and all this stuff. This ties into where I started this podcast today, talking about Whitney Webb and the work that she's done. She's talking about Jim O'Neill, who is the Deputy Secretary of HHS, who is not good. Jim O'Neill is no bueno. Neither is Peter Thiel or Larry Ellison. These are technocrats. Okay, they're technocrats. And now is the time for the people to be very active, to stay active, to stay diligent. Don't fall victim to the cult of personality, okay? Don't fall victim to hollow promises and politicians. Stay active, stay diligent. These things are coming down the pike. They're probably they already have, I had no idea that we have pilot programs happening already in Connecticut with the universal basic income. Hey, if Jeff Bezos wants to pay his Amazon workers a good wage, or provide universal basic income with his billions, because he could end world poverty and homelessness and still be one of the wealthiest men on the planet, or any of them, for that matter, Musk too, I'm going to put him right in there. These are really rich billionaires. Never trust them on either side. Either side. The people should not fall into the cult of personality, ever. We need to remain diligent and not think that somebody's going to save us or fix all these problems. The government is the problem. The more bureaucracy that they build, the worse that it gets. What they could do instead of a universal basic income, how about eliminating property taxes? Oh, and then people will say, well, how will they pay for the roads and the police? Well, they're making, do you know how much my town budget is? Millions and millions of dollars. The school budget takes up 60% of that budget. Why? Our budget is insane. Absolutely insane for a small little town. Doesn't need this exorbitant, beefy budget. We need less bureaucracy and less government in our life, which is really what we need. All these programs, universal basic income, universal pre-K for everywhere, that just creates more bureaucracy. Why don't we take away the public benefit charges and the taxes and the Eversource bills so that all families can afford to get ahead in life? Why don't we stop taxing the bejesus out of the citizens of this state so that everyone could get ahead? There are way better ways to fiscal policy that benefits people and drives and makes a thriving economy. The government is not it. The government is the problem. And on that note, I'm going to sign out of here. So glad to be able to stream to you live from the Constitution State on this cold and rainy day. Till we meet again, cyber friends. Adios.
Hi out there in internet land, and hopefully you guys can all hear me and all my ducks are in a row. I see I got a lot going on here. Let me just get that situated. So I've even been able to add music to my stream today. Let me just check the audio levels and hope that I'm good. I've had a lot of technical difficulties here behind the scenes. So I'm still on OBS. My husband will be surprised because I almost gave up on OBS. Shout out to the open broadcast software that is OBS. You are fabulous. Thank you, OBS. It definitely can be challenging when you have tech problems. Anyway, so exciting today. RFK Jr. has been officially confirmed to HHS, and that is absolutely wonderful. All right, hi out there in internet land, and hopefully you guys can all hear me and all my ducks are in a row. I see I got a lot going on here. Let me just get that situated. So I've even been able to add music to my stream today. Let me just check the audio levels and hope that I'm good. I've had a lot of technical difficulties here behind the scenes. So I'm still on OBS. My husband will be surprised because I almost gave up on OBS. Shout out to the to stay motivated and to stay diligent, because if we don't stay diligent, we could have really bad situation with a technocracy. Yeah, Trump is surrounded by technocrats and he is a businessman. So the way he's going to look at AI and mRNA technology, just as he looked at warp speed, okay? Now, just as he looked at an Operation Warp Speed, as I learned from RFK's testimony during his confirmation hearings, is that Trump had put a lot of different things into warp speed, including looking for alternative treatments, which I didn't know about. I thought warp speed was all about the vaccine. But it might have been positive to open it up to all the things that could help with COVID, right? But the really bad thing that warp speed did is we need a balance of voices that really represents the diversity of the people. And we don't have that right now in Connecticut. In fact, we have a majority, I don't know why it is that they think that it's okay, to have this hearing starts today on a Thursday afternoon at 3 o'clock. And look at how many bills they have here. This is one hearing. The last hearing that I went to last week was 14 hours long and ended at 3 o'clock in the morning and had even more bills than what this does on the agenda. Do you think this is right? Do you think that they should have look at all these bills. They have 10 bills they're considering in one hearing. 10 bills. And one of the things is too that this is just, it's mind-blowing how bad it is. It is absolutely mind-blowing how bad it is, because like the one bill that's going to get a lot of testimony, it's going to take up absolutely mind-blowing how bad it is. Because like the one bill that's going to get a lot of testimony, it's going to take up a good chunk of the hearing. And so they have, we'll just look through all these bills real quick. So they have an act establishing
a task force to study childhood development, prenatal depression screening tools, and data sharing systems. And now remember, I was talking about AI. Connecticut now has a system called Connie. The Connie system is collecting all medical data. You can opt out of Connie. I did a show on that. You can get to that through my Substack on that Sparks Report. You can find me on Substack at Sparks Report, and I put that in the notes. That's on Twitter and Facebook, but you can find me at Sparks Report. jcherry152 at Sparks Report. So we have an act establishing a task force to study the development of prenatal depression screening tools and data sharing systems. So they're sharing this data, okay? And so there's one bill. Then we have another one, an act concerning children's programs. I'm not really sure what that is, but we could tap into that. Some of these are just blank bills. And this is, here we go, the raised bill. Let's take a peek at it. Now you can find all of this stuff on the Connecticut General Assembly website, which you should acclimate yourself to, get very used to using that site. It's extremely important that all of us stay very aware of what's happening as best we can. People are working, they have lives. Nobody has a lot of time to follow this stuff. That's why I'm happy to do a lot of the following for you guys and put it out there. I can't capture even a fraction of it. That's why if there are more people out there who are attracted to researching this stuff and keeping an eye on our government, totally do it. I'm thinking of offering a workshop on OBS to teach other people how to use this wonderful software that is open source software, meaning you're not having to pay huge amounts to have a piece of software that you have to pay to a major developer. You are using an open source software system that's based on donation, and it really works pretty amazingly. I mean, when it fails, it's hard, but that's your own, you know, you have to be the sleuth and figure out the technical aspects of that. But, you know, there's so much happening at the legislative office building in Hartford that it's really hard to keep $72 million to the media during COVID. And now they have a bill so that the government can buy advertising space. That's terrible. They just had that bill was in the last hearing on last Friday that lasted 14 hours and went till 3 a.m. So this is an act concerning children's programs. The Commissioner of Children and Families shall conduct a study to evaluate the efficacy of the programs administered by the Department of Children and Families. The Commissioner shall report in accordance